Sick and tired of your love-hate relationship with wine?
Welcome to the Feel It Alcohol-Free podcast. Hi, I'm Coach Ruby Williams.
And I'm Coach Susan Larkin.
We're two former wine lovers turned alcohol freedom coaches, exposing the lies about alcohol.
And giving you, our listeners, the tools to break free so you can feel lit.
And when you're lit, you'll feel healthier, freer, and more in control of your life.
So relax, kick back, and get ready to feel lit alcohol-free. Welcome back to the Feel It Alcohol-Free podcast. I'm Coach Susan. I'm here with Coach Ruby.
Hello.
We're excited to be here and recording today. We both were away and we'd taken a little tiny break from recording. So we're back and we're excited to see each other.
Yes.
And this topic came up in some of the groups that I'm coaching in. And I was actually singing in the car. I was singing that song, I'm coming out. I want the world to know, want to let it show. And I was thinking, oh yeah, that's how I am, like being alcohol free, but it wasn't always that way, right? Like I want the world to know. It's kind of like,
yeah, I sing from the rooftops now, but it wasn't always that way.
Right. So because, one of the questions I get a lot in my coaching practice, and you also, Ruby, is how do I tell, especially my family, I'm not drinking anymore? I mean, if you're used to having like girl time with wine and your sister or your mother, what are they going to think when I tell them I'm not drinking wine anymore? And also maybe with your besties who used to connect with over wine or cocktails, it could kind of seem daunting to come out as choosing an alcohol-free lifestyle, choosing to be alcohol-free. And that is the subject we are tackling today. So this
what
is
a
for
great
you.
Topic.
Yeah, this is for you. If you've ever thought that, like, how am I going to tell people? What are they going to think? So Ruby, I was thinking about you. I mean, your family works in the wine industry and you worked in the wine industry. And so for you to come out and stop drinking, how did that go for you? What did your family think? And I'm just thinking, what is your story about this?
Oh, yeah. We don't even know our stories about this between the two of us.
Each other,
so we're like,
yeah.
We'll find out while we're recording. Let's be surprised there. Oh my gosh. Yes. I worked in the wine industry for 20 years and my stepdad was a winemaker. And when I was thinking about going alcohol free and just thinking about cutting back and what was I going to say to people? I was terrified that they would think I was a hypocrite. I think hypocrite is the word that comes to mind because I was the one that always brought the wine to parties. I was the one that instigated probably more wine drinking than my family and friends wanted necessarily because I wanted to drink more. So I was always like bringing it to parties, bringing it to family. What wine do you want? Always the one that drank the most. And so, yeah, I remember, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? I was very confused at first because there's this phrase out there, share your scars, not your wounds. And, now as a coach, I really firmly believe you don't have to share anything that you don't feel comfortable with sharing. But I think intuitively, I knew I didn't want to talk a lot about the decision, like that it was forever. I didn't want to feel like I was better than anybody else, or like I didn't want that, that mirror that people talk about where if I say I'm alcohol free or I'm not drinking, then the people that you're having dinner with or lunch with, they start to question their own drinking, and I didn't want them to feel uncomfortable. So there were so many things like swirling around in my mind, and we talk about cognitive dissonance, and it was definitely like a very like tricky situation. So to answer your question, that was a long preface too. I said, and this is what I came up with. So everybody's got their kind of like little thing that they come up with. But I just said, I'm on a keto diet, which was true. I had to have some truth in it. I did or I think little white lies are okay. Like I'm on a medication, but I just said, I'm on a keto diet. I'm trying to lose weight and get healthy. The keto diet and eating lifestyle, there's no sugar, there's no alcohol. So it made it very like cut and dry. I'm not drinking alcohol. Now, nobody knew I was doing all these different programs in AA and went to outpatient rehab, and I was doing all these different things. And I did Holly Whitaker's program and Annie Grace's programs. And it was, I was doing all of this in the background. Didn't share this with anybody. It was very private. My cousin Kristen and I were doing this together. So I was very honest with her. And she's like my best friend. So we did it together, and that was really cool. But I just told the world, including my besties, people I used to work with, I would just say, I'm on a keto diet and I'm not drinking alcohol. And it backfired a few times where like, I remember like my aunt was like, well, you can have like one drink, right? And, or can't you, vodka doesn't have any calories, or like I would get a little pushback. But it was, again, I was just like, I'm on a keto diet. I don't drink alcohol or eat sugar. Like I had my little like, and it worked. And then I would bring my own sparkling water, lemon flavor, or I would try to make sure I had what I needed. So yeah. But actually I did come out. I'm using air quotes if you're watching the video. I did come out alcohol free and was honest with my family. And it took about a whole year. And I did it very slowly. I would pick one friend or one family sibling. And probably the last was my parents. And I know my mom listens to this. So probably some of the last people I told were my parents. And I remember some of the people I told were like, I don't think you have a problem. And because they didn't know, they only saw how much I was drinking when I was out. And they didn't know how much I was drinking at home alone. So it was kind of like, well, I did actually, I did have a problem. So like I have 6 brothers and sisters, and I literally would make an appointment on Zoom. This was during the pandemic, like on Zoom or a phone call. And I went individually with each person. Hey, this is what I'm doing. This is what's important to me right now. I did have a problem. And you know what's funny, Susan? One of my brothers, while I was sharing my story, he said, I'm alcohol free for a whole year, and that I had a problem too. And it was really cool. Wow. So it's something that you kind of don't talk about. Like he wasn't talking about it, and I wasn't talking about it. So you might find out when you start sharing that your family members and friends might be curious or wanting to talk about it, or it may not be as scary as you think too. I just want to share that. But yeah. What about you? I'm so curious about your story. How did you come out? Yeah.
Well, I didn't even know you had brothers. I knew you had a sister. So
two sisters and 3 brothers.
2 sisters and 3 brothers. Wow. I'm learning so much. I love your approach by just having individual conversations, going slowly, telling one person, seeing how it went, refining your approach as you go along, right. And that's so beautiful. I really love that. And I can imagine that it's like really calming to your nervous system to take it at that pace and do it in that way. And then I'm just so thrilled that you had such a wonderful reception with your brother. That's so amazing.
I was like, no way. That's amazing.
That's a beautiful thing. So my heart is just so happy to hear that. Well, I have a couple of one funny story, but it wasn't funny at the time. So as you know from my story that I went to AA back in 2013, that story is, nobody knew that. Didn't tell anyone. That was like this 8-month thing. But then in 2019, when I first took a break in May, and then I kind of spent the whole year taking pretty big breaks and really intending to live an alcohol-free lifestyle, except I guess in the back of my mind, there was that back door because I would keep trying to moderate. And I know now that I was stuck, trying to get back to normal. But in December 2019, my dad called me and he goes, I'm going to get you this gift for Christmas. And my dad's real sweet. And I'm just like, oh, Dad's getting me a gift. And he goes, well, remember that winery we went to on your mom's 75th birthday? And I'm going to get you the Wine of the Month Club from that winery. And I was like, oh, I said, Dad, I'm not drinking right now. And he got like kind of flustered. Like, I mean, how horrible is that? Like, you have this great idea. I love my daughter. I'm going to give her this great gift. And then I just like pinprick, but I couldn't have wine of the month coming to my house. So I'm just like, no, I'm not drinking. And he got flustered and he was just like, well, what do I get you? He goes, well, how about National Geographic? And I'm like, we went from wine of the month club to subscription to National Geographic.
That's hilarious.
And I'm like, okay. So guess what I get? I get National Geographic.
That's my favorite magazine.
It is. But it's just, I don't know. Now I look back and I'm just like, it's so hilarious. It's like from wine of the month club to National Geographic magazine. So, but it was so awkward. And afterwards I felt shame, I guess. I felt bad that I disappointed my dad. Like I knew he was sort of flustered and like, I mean, I don't know. That was hard. That was really hard.
Yeah.
And now every time I get National Geographic in the mail, I think of that story. I think, oh, this is why I'm getting it. But then, so I really started, so I went completely alcohol free June 2020. And then I didn't see my parents again in person until the next Christmas because we canceled Christmas that year because of COVID. So then by then it was almost a year and a half alcohol free. And I don't know if I told people a lot about it, and I was already doing the coaching program too. And I already finished. So here I am at Christmas and I'm alcohol free and I'm a coach. So I tell my parents that this is something I did. And I remember going back into the back bedroom of my parents' house and thinking, just being panicky. Like, what are they thinking? Oh my God, they're probably thinking, oh, crazy Susan, she's doing something nutty again, la, la, la. And then I realized with the mindset work we've done, I was like, you know what? I don't know what they're thinking. So I may as well just think that they think it's wonderful. If they don't tell me otherwise, I'm just going to tell myself that they think this is great. And then I just cracked myself up and I'm like, okay, and in the beginning, same as you, I didn't want them to feel uncomfortable. I remember making a real effort to be like, it's dinner time. And if my mom normally would have a glass of wine, just saying, have your glass of wine, Mom, and having my alcohol-free drink and just like really making it like, you don't have to worry about drinking around me, making that very clear. My story was that just, I feel so much better not drinking. I really noticed that my anxiety and depression was just so much better and that I was drinking too much, especially during COVID and that I just feel so much better. So I just decided to stop. And, people were like forever, and I'm like, yeah, I mean, it just doesn't, I don't really want it anymore. And I think that they were kind of surprised about that. But now over the years, they get used to it. So I guess what I want to say is, like you said, it can seem daunting, but it could go really well. And that was, what
right.
you wanted to offer listeners. And I guess what I want to offer is, in the beginning, even if it is awkward, they get used to it after a while, and it's just, they're used to it. Susan doesn't drink. She brings her own stuff. No big deal, and
yeah. And a lot of it's in our own heads. And if you can work on what you're going to say and it just rolls off your tongue and it's simple and if you don't feel like you want to have a big conversation about your problem while you're out to dinner or with a friend, you don't have to. So some of the, there's little tricks too that I love to share with clients, but you can come up with your own. But if someone says, hey, do you want a drink? You could say, yes, I'd love a drink. I'll have sparkling water with lime, please. You can come up with all kinds or I'm just really thirsty. You just literally can deflect. It doesn't have to be about a problem or that you're not drinking alcohol. Sometimes though, you can do things like dry January. We've mentioned that before. Mm-hmm. That can be helpful. You could say I'm experimenting with dry January or, awesome April. Or, you could make it up, but you really do not have to tell anybody about your problem. You could just say, I feel better. I love what you say. I mean, that is so, it's probably true. Pick out a couple truths, maybe. I sleep so much better. Or
yes, that's a great one.
it was affecting my anxiety. You know, because it does.
It does.
Alcohol
Yeah.
affects your anxiety. Or, you know, I'm losing weight. For me, it was about weight. You know, it's true. Alcohol kept my weight. I kept gaining weight when I was drinking because I would also eat more. So, you know, whatever it is for you, it can just be positive. I say keep it positive, light, instead of like, no, I'm not drinking and I had this problem and, you know, wah. Like you keep it, you can keep it lighter and I just feel better. I sleep better. I'm looking better. My skin, you know, is fresher. Well, there's a million, right? There's a million benefits to being alcohol free. So you can choose one. But I did, you know, because you mentioned we're coaches, right? So as a coach, I wanted to scream from the rooftops, I'm alcohol free and I did have a problem, so I can really relate to people. So that was a whole nother coming out process that I wanted to share, because I was like, okay, I'm going to say on Facebook that I had a problem. I mean, I was spinning and spinning for months about how do I do this? I was so scared. And finally I actually worked with Coach Pam, and I got a coach. So coaches have coaches. And I said, I don't know how to do this. And she's like, well, what are you afraid of? And I said, I'm afraid people are going to judge me and think that my problem was like, you know, really bad, meaning like that I had a DUI or that I lost a job or that, you know, something major happened. And nothing major happened really. Besides, I knew my health was failing, and I knew something major was happening in my body, but like nothing like that happened. So when I did that post, I don't know if I've shared this with you, I said, you know, I never had a DUI. I never had a, you know, anything major happen. I just knew I had a problem, and I wanted to take responsibility to improve my health. So it's kind of like addressing it head on.
I love that.
Like, what was I worried about? Oh, that they thought I had a DUI or went to jail or like something happened. Nothing like that happened. So I wanted to I just addressed it. And
That's
then,
perfect.
Yeah. And then I felt good. And now I'm able to just share. And I do think sharing, if you can get to that point, it makes less stigma, right? I really want to change the conversation. I want to change the culture and the shame, right? It's not alcoholic, right? Blaming the person that drinks too much. It's that you have alcohol use disorder. Oh, I want to blame the alcohol, not the person. It's actually everybody can have it, and anybody can have addiction to alcohol. So it's not your fault.
I love that. Yes. And I love that because I say this to clients and groups that I work with. I say, when we worry what other people are going to think, we tell them what to think with our elevator pitch. So you did exactly that. You addressed the things that you were worried about, and you just told them, no, that wasn't the situation, and this is the situation. So you're telling them what to think about your choice versus leaving it open-ended and worrying about what they think. So that's what we talk about when we talk about creating your elevator pitch, just like you do when you start a business. You want to get it down. You want to have it be pithy, short sentence, and like you said, have it just roll off your tongue. So I literally tell clients, practice it in the mirror, being positive and going, hey, and try it out. Try it out one time and go, okay, I'm going to change it a little bit this way, or I'm going to change it a little bit that way, until you get it down where you can just anytime, anywhere, boom, come out with what you want.
I'm on a keto diet. Boom.
Yeah. Boom. Tell them, what you want them to know and how you want them to, they can react. You don't have control over how they're going to react. So they could, but a lot of times people will just go along with what you're saying. They go, oh, okay, oh, great. That's awesome. And then they move on, but along the lines of that your family gets used to it. Now, like my sister sends me mocktail recipes. Everybody's into it. But listen to this. I wanted to share this because this is so funny. In the paper, my parents still get the paper. and do the Wordle and all that. But in the paper, there was like the book section about all the new books coming out. And there was one that was circled. So I'm just kind of looking at it. And let me read you this book that my mom circled. It's called One Death at a Time, author Abby Waxman. What is it about? In the latest novel from Waxman, a former actress with a drinking problem, smart mouth, and a bad temper is falsely accused of murder, and she teams up with her Zoomer sobriety coach to clear her name. I'm like, oh my gosh, she has a sobriety coach on Zoom, which is like us. And I was just like, my mom like circled that, and I was just dying laughing.
That's so adorable.
I know. I said that to my clients, and I'm like, "Don't worry. If you're ever accused of murder, I will help you." And they're like, "Good to know, Susan."
Oh
so gosh. Isn't that hilarious? So
that
then,
is.
They look out for now. They look. My mom circled that. That's hilarious, and yeah.
And another thing I noticed because I'm over 5 years alcohol free, and it's like, I realize now all the things that I used to do socially and when I was worried about coming out or whatever, it's just, people get used to it. There's just less because I was the one, and I don't know if you were too, I was the one bringing most of the alcohol because, I worked in the wine. I would bring like multiple bottles of wine to game night, for example. And now I realize because I'm not drinking wine, I'm not bringing wine. People in game night are just drinking less. Maybe one guy's drinking one beer. I mean, it's totally different. It used to be about, at least that's what I noticed. It was all about, because I wanted to drink wine. So it was all about drinking wine. And now it's just more about the food, the games. And we just don't even talk about alcohol that much. It's totally different. And we have just as much fun or more fun. I do. I have so much fun alcohol free. Yeah.
That's amazing. Well, that's an interesting point too. We may have had a skewed perception of the situations that we were in around drinking because we were drinking, and like you said, maybe we were the ones bringing the party. And if we don't bring the party, everyone's like, "That's fine. We don't need alcohol anyway," and that's cool. That's great.
Yeah. My one friend Dina, who does game night, she actually didn't drink wine at all, or didn't drink alcohol at all. But because I worked in the wine industry and we would meet for game night or different things, she started to drink wine. And it's just so funny. Like I felt like was I the drug pusher? I guess so. But I didn't realize it at the time because it was just so normalized.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah. That's interesting. Well, I have had a client or many clients that struggle socially, you know what I mean? And they're just, worried about the neighborhood friends and at the country club or at the pool club or whatever. And so one of the questions I ask them, this is just something that might help you, is what is something else you do in your life that other people don't do? Like, there's this thing of like, I'm not like everyone else. And that was so interesting because this was with this one client, she was like, gosh, I really don't care about what people think of me in any other area of my life. Like I do what I want to do, da, 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 da. And it was just like such a revelation. And like, why is alcohol treated differently then? Why do we worry so much? And it's the stigma, et cetera, but just but shifting that was like, because it's sort of like you can then resource yourself with the same feelings or the same, personal approach you have to life in those other areas of your life, and then apply it to this area. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like skills that you can then take from one area and apply to another. It's like, oh wait, I don't really care what people think of me in any other area of my life. So then apply that here. And so it's a great, like we do, we're always questioning things and we're always turning things on its head. Mm-hmm. And so that was a really interesting way of looking at it, or questioning.
And planning ahead. Like, what if someone does ask a lot of questions? What do you want to say, or do you want to deflect? A lot of times you're just not ready, especially in the beginning of your alcohol-free journey. You're just not ready to share, like we said earlier, your scars or your
wounds.
Your wounds, right? I always get it backwards. Is it the wounds or the scars? But yeah, you want to just keep it light. And I'll say it again, like, yeah, I'll have a drink. Just give me an iced tea. It doesn't have to, you don't have to explain. The easier it is, the clear cut, and just easier it is without explanation, or maybe you can change the subject. But when you're ready, then, like I said, I went and picked each friend. In fact, I remember my bestie, because you brought that up. I texted her before we went out to lunch, and I said, by the way, looking forward to lunch. I'm not drinking alcohol. I just said that because we always for a decade or more decades would drink alcohol together, drink wine together. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to give her like a heads up so she could like wrap her brain around it. She could ask questions when we're at lunch or not. But it was, I just said, you can still have, you have your wine. That's fine. Sometimes people though will ask, is it okay if I have wine while you're not having? I remember getting that. Did you ever get that? Mm-hmm. And I mean, you can totally answer it however you want. Mm-hmm. I remember, I think with that one friend, I did say, yeah, actually, is it okay if you just have iced tea also? And she was like, okay. But then the next time she's like, no, I really want a glass of wine. I'm like, okay. It's like every time we just started kind of moving through life in this way and kind of seeing how you feel. It goes.
It's so good you were really honest. I think it was really important to me to not dictate what anyone else did. So I was always like, no, go ahead, order away, but yeah, that sharing from your scars, not your wounds, is so interesting. I think something must have come up when I did the Annie interview on the This Naked Mind podcast. And this was back in March 2022. Uh-huh. So, December, I just come out to my family. So, I was a new coach, same as you, just starting to come out here and there. I mean, of course, now we have our own podcast. Our stories are all out there. But I think she started asking me some questions. And I remember after the podcast, really feeling that vulnerability hangover. I cried for a week. There's something that was really I don't know, really... Yeah. And that touched me, and then I think I shared with somebody, and they're like, "Oh, that's what happens when we share from our wounds, not our scars." And so that's why we talk about this. It's really important to protect yourself. Not that I regret that at all, because actually she's such a good coach that she coached me around something. And of course, that was the first time telling my story on now this platform that has 1 million listeners. So it's no problem, So that was pretty big to then to talk about it, that in that kind of platform. Yeah. So but
that happened to me too. I actually, with Annie's, I think I hadn't quite realized how vulnerable I'd end up being on her podcast, and I decided to be very vulnerable. But then I had that vulnerability hangover is what we call it, where the next day you're like, oh my gosh, did I share too much?
Yeah.
But yeah. And we coaches, we can help you reset that mindset too. Whoa.
Yes. And help you with your elevator pitch, help you with the line of questioning, to help you really figure out what's important for you to share, what really aligns with your values. I do a lot of value work with my clients. And then that just, when you really can own it, and it really is from the heart, and it really is connected with these deep-seated values you have, it's your story. There's nothing anybody can say. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And that's the power of it though too, is just, it stands on its own 2 feet, and usually doesn't invite questions if you come up with telling it the right way.
Exactly. Yeah. And we are just sharing our stories, but you get to create your own elevator pitch, your own story, how much you want to share. And we can also help you come out however you want to, with different people, with friends or family, or decide that you want to keep it really close to your heart, and it's just your personal. It's all good, whatever you decide. Yeah.
You do not have to tell every waiter. My daughter always looks at me you do not have to tell them your life story, Mom. So this is the time in the podcast when we shift and talk about what is helping us to feel lit in our alcohol-free lifestyle. So Ruby, it's your turn to tell us.
Okay.
Yay. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm going back to the basics of being present, and what I just, I read The Power of Now and by Eckhart Tolle, and many other books and ways and meditations and but being present. I think the easiest way to get present is literally to just look at your hands and know that you are here right now. I think this is very good. So what I say to my clients around being present is it's the place where you can actually be the happiest. So when you are thinking about the past and maybe ruminating about the past, that can create depression or sadness, or you can have happiness in the past. And same with the future. If you are thinking about the future in negative ways, it's can give you anxiety and worry. But also you can train yourself and teach yourself to think in more positive ways for the future. But where life is happening is right in the present. Right now, this is where life is happening. And if you could just be, going to the basics, meaning maybe saying something that you're grateful for, or being in nature, being present, listening, using your senses. We've talked about all of these different things on the podcast, but the power of now, this is where life is happening. It's so critical to be here right now and just connect with yourself in the present moment. Yeah.
Awesome. I love that. I think that's part of Tara Brach's things. When you notice you're in the trance, how do you get back? And it's by feeling what you feel in your body, getting back into your body. I use my breath a lot and, breathe, do the 2x breath, breathe. You can even do a breath, mantra, be, and then here, say it on the exhale. Now, and kind of do, I'm present in this moment, back in your body. Yeah. So important. Yeah. It also calms your nervous system to get back into your body.
Yeah, there's so many breath work. I love that breath work. There's 2x breath, 4x breath. 4x breath is breathing
4,
in,
4, 4.
4, hold for 4, out for 4, hold for 4.
Hold for 4. Yeah.
But being present, right? Isn't that, what do you think about that concept? Just the more we're present and grateful or appreciative of the present moment, it's where the magic is happening.
Well, right. Yeah. No, I agree. I can sometimes, race through life, my head is one place, my body's another. And it's sort of if you're chopping vegetables, be here chopping vegetables.
Right.
How the power of that is. And I think it does help our alcohol-free journey too. Because, just to be in our bodies.
Present, aware, mindful, all of that. I know I hear a lot people that chase, I want to just go, or I've heard clients say, I want to just go and be back how I used to be. But we're always changing. I am different than who I was yesterday. So it's who you are today. And yes, have those future hopes and dreams and live into create your future. But it's about now. So say you want to, I don't know, have lose weight or this goal weight as your future. Let's just use weight as an example. Mm-hmm. It takes being present and focusing on what you're eating and or exercise, whatever you're doing today, right? You cannot be that future person unless you work on it today. So it's really all about the present. Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, such wisdom, Ruby, such wisdom. So awesome. Well, I hope this was helpful for you. We always try to make every episode something with a tool that you can take away and topics that we feel are things that we're hearing from our clients that we think will help you, our listeners. So we love to hear from you. So feel free to email us. Both Ruby and I would love to hear from you. We'll email you back or, join our Facebook group. And we'd love it if you would leave a review if you like our podcast. If you don't, you cannot do that.
And subscribe to our YouTube channel. We just had, I think in the last 2 or 3 weeks, we've had 75 new subscribers.
Wow, I love it.
On fire.
Oh
And
my gosh, you can
People
see my dorky face.
see our faces. Yeah, no, we have so much fun doing this, and we just really want to change the trajectory of lives and have this alcohol-free lifestyle out in conversation in
Yes.
the regular in our culture. We want to make changes here, you guys.
Yes,
Lifestyle.
normalize.
Yes.
Normalize not drinking so that you don't have to come up with an elevator pitch. When you say, I don't drink, it'll be just like, I don't smoke.
Right.
Easy peasy, right?
Easy
I think
peasy.
we're getting there. We're getting there.
We're getting there. We're doing our part, right, Susan?
We are. We're trying. Yeah.
All right.
So awesome.
Well,
Well,
thank
thanks
you.
for being here.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks so much for listening to Feel It Alcohol Free Podcast. Do you have a question you'd like us to answer on the show?
All you need to do is head over to Apple Podcasts and do 2 simple things. Leave a rating and review telling us what you think of the show. And in that review, ask us any questions you have about breaking free from wine or living an alcohol-free lifestyle.
That's it. Then tune in to hear your question answered live.
And remember, do something today that will help you feel lit.
Don't forget to check out Feel It 21.
Your alcohol-free adventure awaits.